There are so many places to visit around the world that are a marvel to mankind, including the wonders of the world that some of you may know. The Great Wall of China is one of them. It was built between 220 and 206 BC, and it expands a total of 13,171 miles in its total length. The Colosseum in Rome, built in 20 to 30 AD, which held up to 80,000 viewers, which is also a marvel to mankind. A lot of people don't know that these things exist, and they're amazing, and they're just a marvel to see. According to CNN, only about 30% of Americans actually own a passport that enables them to travel from countries other than the United States. Now, they are allowed to drive, to any vacation, but, they can't go out of the country, which is a staggering amount comparatively to the United Kingdom and Canada's 50%. Many people in modern times do not see the importance of traveling when it offers you an escape from reality and your everyday life. It gives you opportunities to try new things and try new foods, hear new languages, and see new things. I've traveled to many places in my lifetime, not meaning to brag, but I've definitely been blessed. I've been to France, I've been to Spain, Sicily, Italy, Corsica, Santorini, Fiji, Canada, Alaska, Mykonos, and Hawaii, and I loved every single trip, and I think they influenced me. And I have experiences from traveling from these places that I don't think anyone else can say that they have. And I have a collective testimony with my friends and my families who went, and it was a great experience. And I've done extensive research on the topic since I've gone so many vacations, and I feel like they've influenced me positively. Now that I've told you many places I've traveled to, the topic interests me, and so I will go into the importance of how travel can affect you, how important traveling is to humans. First, I will go through the process of demonstrating the need to travel in the first place, why it's so important to us as humans. Then, I will discuss to you how travel and the experiences you go through accommodate yourself in a certain way so you can go through it the proper way without having to, fail or having a hard time to do it. Next, I'll show you what life is like if you do not travel and the experiences you will miss out on. And finally, I'll implore you, my audience, to travel yourself and discover the benefits. Americans do not realize how traveling can change you as a person and see things differently by removing the tunnel vision out of your simple life and making things seem clearer by getting the greater picture of the world around you and being more visible and having more of a cultural adaptation. Before I traveled, I remember being quite conceited and arrogant. I used to not care about the world around me and only cared about the food I ate on my table and the TV I was going to watch the next day. When I was 13, my family decided to go on a trip to Italy and Sicily. At first, I didn't want to go. I just was a kid who would rather just stay at home, see his friends, be out with his family, almost felt like a family chore. And so I was just counting down the days until I went on this trip. And I really didn't want to go. Well, a couple days into the trip, I just realized how amazing this opportunity was that I had. And I started seeing the scenery around me, and it just blew my mind what came about. And I started seeing things differently. I started actually paying attention to things around me. Instead of looking down at my electronics in the bus, I was looking out the window and looking, or just in the car looking out the window, or just always looking to see. And that was a first for me. When we got to Rome, it was probably the most influential point, because when we saw the Colosseum, that to me was like just amazing. It's, one of the marvels of the world. And we got to walk through it. It was definitely a gift, and I will never forget it. I do want to go back to this day. And next opportunity I have to travel there, I'm definitely going to take that. Very many seem to agree that there are only positive memories that come from traveling, and it can make life seem better and more worth living and positively affect your health. Sorry. According to studies done by the United States Travel Association, people who come back from vacations have deeper sleep and they fall asleep easier, and they have better night's sleep generally than people who don't vacation and are on the same everyday routine. And it also just positively affects your health by people rating themselves 1 point higher on an average scale. When doctors ask them on a scale from 1 to 5 how you're doing, people who come back on vacations usually rate themselves higher, generally by 1 point. When you come back from a long vacation, your mind is clear due to not having to worry about responsibilities of your everyday life, giving you an advantage in thinking and positive outlooks. According to the United States Travel Association studies, most businessmen who come back from vacations actually come up with some of their best ideas because they have a lot of free time on their vacations to not have to think about the everyday mundane tasks that they usually have to do, and they can think about their overall concepts and ideas and build products off of that. That's also brought to you by the United States Travel Association. And this is also as well, patients at the Midwestern Medical Hospital, when people were talking about travel, they had positive outlooks. Recovery was also going better for them, and patients, instead of being sedated and closed out in their rooms, they were actually talking together and speaking of their experiences traveling and how it brought them together closer with their friends and family. And being happy in a veterans hospital is definitely a plus, because that is where people are soon to be dying, and raising their spirits is always a great thing. And I have a quote from St. Augustine: "The world is a book, and those who do not travel read only one page." And I thought that was a great quote. We all see life being short, and it can end at any time. But why would you want to leave this world without having traveled once in your life? My dad's cousin died when he was 45, and he regretted never traveling. Is one thing he, to this day, said. People will regret never traveling. That is one thing we all know. And according to CNN, those who travel have a permanent memory ingrained in the event, which it's a long-lasting memory, and it influences you positively, of course, if the trip was positive. But it influences you positively, and so for everyone in our class, we're around 20 years old. And so if you think about it, the average life expectancy in the United States is around 85 to 90 years old. And some of you have never traveled yet, and that's almost a fourth of your life that has been spent. So I am urging to you guys, you cannot go through your life without traveling. You're already 1/4 of the way through it. You need to get on this. And the biggest regrets that terminally ill people have when they're on their deathbeds, or when they know that their time is coming, is the fact that they did not travel in their lifetime. And that, to them, is one of the biggest regrets. People who are over 50 years old and regret not traveling when they're retiring, and when they don't have the money saved up from retirement, they regret it. Now that I've made you all aware of why you need to travel in your lifetime, I will now go over how you can attain your travels. We all at some point think ourselves that we need to travel, but you need to do an overall plan to be ready. You can't just go in and say that you're ready to travel. You got to reserve the proper time is one. You got to have the proper funds, and finding the right methods of travel, finding where you truly want to travel is another thing, because you don't want to just explore somewhere you don't know, find out you don't like it, and have a bad time. Having solid plans for anything in life generally is a good thing, but on vacations, having a plan is definitely one thing you want to have. You lay out exactly what's going to happen. First, you make a list. You focus on where you want to go, first of all, how much money you're going to need, and how you're going to get there. Those are the three questions you're going to ask yourself mainly. Travel agencies are great. They help you fill in those three questions quite well. It depends on which ones you go to as well. Having the proper time is key. You can go when you have to work because you're going to miss work and you could possibly get fired. You have to have vacation days if you work. And if you go to school, please make sure it's on vacation time so you are not doing it on your teacher's time and missing classes. If you're traveling out of the country, make sure you have a passport. You can't travel if you do not have a passport out of the country. You can travel to Vegas, yes, but you cannot travel, outside of the country. And if you're driving, it is best to do it with someone. You can share the gas, especially in today's economy with the 4.3 average regular on a gasoline. That's not good, so you want to share that expense with someone. And also sharing rooms with someone on a road trip is great too. And if you're flying, please make sure you go online. This is key. You go online and you check the dates of certain establishments and see if they can give you certain dates cheaper, and they will. You can rent hotels online as well, such as hotwire.com or TravelZoo. They're really great websites to use. And things of all these things, vacation or travel, because you want these things to be in line. It's hard when you go on a vacation and don't have these things in line. So if you plan on these goals on your travel, the act of obtaining it will be much easier and affordable. The biggest fear and expenses, but you have to just save. It's key of saving. And when you have an idea of it before, it makes it better. So having a saving plan and a money budget really helps. Pretty much I did this method for myself. This is how it came into play. I had an opportunity to go on a trip to Costa Rica, and I had to save up some money to help pay for some things, and I set some aside. You set a savings, and you set every piece you get off a paycheck aside, a little bit aside, towards your vacation. And when you do that, it makes everything easier because you don't want to go into a vacation just by spending your own money. I researched everything on websites. I got cheaper airfares because I went on a date that was less booked and they needed to fill up the seats, so I got a really good airfare and I got cheap hotel rates online. Online is the best way to do it, guys. I'm urging you. And I was right next to my friends and everything was well. And I went on one of the funnest trips of a lifetime just because I had a plan before. I saved up, I went online, I checked the certain dates, but you have to do it time before. It's all about time in this situation. And as you're doing this, it might be harder for you to obtain because money is the key here, and you have to have a nice job set aside for you to be able to travel. Unless you're doing something as if your school, if they have a travel abroad, you should go. But otherwise, money is going to be the biggest factor with vacations and traveling, and it's one of the reasons why people don't do it. But saving is the key word here. You have to save, and saving is worth it, guys. Now that I've addressed to you how you can obtain your travels, I'll now disclose to you what can happen if you don't travel in your life. Think about it. You're 70 years old and you're on your deathbed with cancer and you regret not traveling. Do you want to be in that situation? You've gone through your whole life and you've done certain things. You've been maybe all around the state, but you've never gone outside the state, or maybe you've never gone outside the country. And that's one thing people regret. 91% on that CNN statistic said that they regret traveling the most. You don't want to be in that position because regret is one of the most powerful emotions, and you don't want to be on your deathbed with regret. So today I have disclosed to you the importance of traveling and why it is so necessary to humans and how we can obtain it. First, I conveyed to you why it is so important to have the experience of traveling and why it's so important to us as humans. Secondly, I gave you some advice and solutions of how you can go about traveling for yourself and how you can do it in more cost-effective ways. And finally, I gave you a scenario where life wasn't so great when you weren't traveling, and a life of regret, and you do not want to put through that. You do not want to put yourself through that. I would love to see, you guys travel, and I want to hear your experiences. So I have a list of places, because I know a lot of you are college kids on a budget, so going on vacations outside the country is kind of hard for you right now. So there are a list of places here in California that I've found that you can go to that are driving distance from San Diego, and they're all great vacations. It's better to go with multiple people. And I have an email address, and I'm going to leave it with you guys and with a questionnaire, and if you can get back to me how great that email was, how great it was, your travel experience, and let me know how it went for you. And just let me know. I personally have been on so many trips, and I've traveled a lot in my lifetime. And when I retire, I'm going to just travel more and more and more. And we must realize the importance of traveling, because we are built with fate and we are built to go places. We're not stationary people, and learning cultural influences on this planet that we live in is key, because you become culturally sensitive, you learn different things, you learn different languages, and you become closer with different people and different heritages, and learn different things every day. And the memories you learn from traveling are priceless, and they cannot be replaced by anything in this world. Thank you guys.